So, Endless Sky. This is largely the reason for the past several months of related material. So, some of my escape velocity stuff, you could argue, although I really like escape velocity. Ares, and most recently Naev. I wanted to go through the whole heritage of escape velocity and its descendants, essentially. And Endless Sky is the latest escape velocity clone that I'm aware of. And this is the GitHub website, which is one of the best ones. Naev has some advantages over it in that, for example, it has the spaceport bars and some of the other features from the original escape velocity, but on balance, I generally prefer Endless Sky. It's a subjective thing, but I certainly have far more experience with it as well. It's not just the fact that I have a subjective liking to it. I can do a better playthrough of it simply because I have much more sense. I have a much better sense of what I'm doing with it. And how do you find it? Well, it's a freeware game, so you can download it from the website, or the GitHub website anyway. It's in beta 9.8 right now. I wanted to wait until the final beta came out, but if we take a look at that, milestones. This is my favorite way to look at a game. So it says it's done. To the best of my knowledge, it is not. Because there's no due date. It's only 44% complete. And there are still 58 open issues that the development team, primarily Michael Zonisser, are working on. More on that in a minute. So if you're going to be playing Endless Sky as of this week, I presume that you will want to play this version. Jumping back. Beta 9.8. Because you can see there it's available for Windows 32-bit, Windows 64-bit, Mac OS X, and then there's the source code. I presume you could build a Linux version. You'd have to talk with Michael Zonisser about the best way to code that. The fact is, if it will run in Mac OS X, it probably will run in Linux. Like Ares. But like Ares, there are probably a lot of challenges to face with it. One of the ships. I don't know all the ships yet because I haven't played enough of the missions to see everything. Another option is you can use Steam. It is Steam compatible. Not just Steam compatible, it's on Steam. The release date they give is 30th of October 2015, although obviously that was an earlier beta. It is still in beta, despite everything. It's a very nice beta, though. Anyway, this is Michael Zonisser, the primary developer. He's a pretty serious programmer. He's a software engineer. He claims to be proficient in C++, so presumably that source code is C++. I haven't looked at it. The original escape velocity, as I understand it, was programmed in C++ too, so it's a continuation of that heritage. And then there's also a player's manual on the GitHub site. This is very concise, very basic. It gets you started. But if you really want to know the game, you basically have to play it. Luckily, I have played it a fair amount. Far more than Naev and far more than Ares. So I hope that I can do a better playthrough. And the controls are more like escape velocity, certainly, than Naev. It's much easier to handle, at least for me, because I have so many, probably, I don't know how many days in my life playing escape velocity. Before we start, I should actually review the controls again. because these will be the control settings that you'll start with. I've actually changed a number of these on my installation. So the arrow keys control your ship just like escape velocity. The afterburner is controlled by A, not Z, like in escape velocity. Landing is L, like in escape velocity. Hyperspace jump is J, same as escape velocity. Incidentally, jumping back to L, this will auto-land you. So, at least in my experience, you don't generally have to line everything up yourself. Tab, fire primary weapons. I've changed this to space, I believe. Select secondary weapon, W. This is the same as in escape velocity. Fire secondary weapon is Q. I've forgotten what I've changed this to. Cloaking device is C, not U, like in escape velocity. I've changed it back to U. Select nearest hostile ship is R, and that is carried over from Naev, and from, I think, maybe Ares as well, but certainly Naev. Select nearest ship, Shift R, that's a new feature. Select next ship, N. So that's another basically new feature because all of the communications and selection features are different. Select next escort, Shift N. Talk to selected ship, T instead of Y. I think I may have changed that to Y for familiarity. Board is still B. Boarding a disabled escort is Shift B. That will generally repair it. Show main menu, escape, that's the same. Scan is S. Star map is M, same as in escape velocity. View player info is I. Closer to Naev, actually, than escape velocity. Toggle full screen, F11. Deploy or recall fighters, D. That's different from escape velocity because that's generally C. And that's only when you're flying with them deployed. Fight my target, F. Gather around me, G. This is, of course, the fleet. This isn't just your fighters, but all of your escorts. I'll explain that more in a bit. Toggle ammo usage, U. I've had to go without that because I insisted on using U for the cloak. And so, they have a few keyboard shortcuts. They're talking about double click, left click. Really, they mean mouse shortcuts. And so on. Now, one thing I should add about fighters, they're not very clear in the ship info how many fighters each one can carry. I would say check the code or do a little bit of experimentation on that. The fighters cannot jump with you because they can't carry fuel. That's different from escape velocity. And the fuel of your fleet members matters. So every escort ship you have will need to refuel before it can follow you if your fuel capacity is larger. So oftentimes what will happen is if you have a very long-range ship, you jump too far, and you have to wait for your fleet. When you land on the planet, not all of your fleet will be there to trade and so on. So not all of your cargo may have arrived. So that's realistic, but it's an odd feature that you don't have in escape velocity. Now, I'll explain the rest of that in-game.